So a lot of times we get things that come up to us and they fall into various quadrants. So there's things that are urgent and things that are not urgent. There are things that are important and things that are not important. So let's start off with things that are not urgent and not important, okay? These are the kind of time wasters that come in, and it's sort of, the spam email, social media sometimes.
Stuff you can just ignore.
It's not important, it's not urgent, you can just put it aside. The second thing that comes into play is sort of things that are urgent, but they're not important. You'll get some email with a little exclamation point, and as soon as you start to read it, it's like, I don't need to attend to that. It's, come to the picnic, or
It's important to somebody else.
Important to somebody else, but it's not important to you, or not important to your work.
Or at least you don't think it is.
You don't think it is. And then you'll find out.
You could be wrong.
So let's go to the things that are the fires, the things that you have to attend to right away. Those are the urgent and important, okay? These are the things that if you don't fix it now, it's going to come back and it's going to be worse. So, you have a system that breaks, you have a server goes down, you got to jump right on it because people are calling and all that. Where we don't spend enough time, and this is the key thing, are the things that are important but not urgent. You come across something, I need to take that course, I've got to get recertified, I'll get to that later. And what ends up happening is that these get deferred.
Yes.
You don't have enough time to do the important things that are not urgent, because if you spend time with some of these things, sharpening the saw, improving your communication skills, getting a system up that'll help you manage your email traffic, it'll save you time from here.
I in my mailbox, I filter by unread, and I keep things that are not urgent, that I see as not urgent but important, as unread. I keep them on the status, and they wind up clustered at the very bottom of my mailbox.
And do you ever get to them?
Not until they, and imagine this is where you're headed, not until they become...
Not until you've taken off the pile here.
Yeah, until they may rise to that status without me wanting them to, and I may have kept them from doing that if I had attended to them earlier, right?
Absolutely. So now the question is, where do I get time? You can't take time from here.
Right.
This will be the number one thing that you spend most of the time.
That's where my supervisor has come to my desk, right?
Right. So if I could redraw these lines of what they look like in real life, they probably look like this. This is so small that we're going to have to even take this out. Probably looks like this. And then this gets to be like this.
So this is like one of those geographical maps of the United States where everything's out of proportion based
exactly.
on
So it starts to look like this, okay? I mean, that's the reality.
It's 3 quadrants rather than...
Three.
Or 4, but one's really little.
Right. So this important, not urgent. So where we want to get to is this. So I'm going to redraw the lines and write what it should be, okay? Because red's kind of urgent.
So that lower right corner is not
urgent, not important.
Not urgent. Okay, because we lost the title. Yeah, not urgent.
So this you shouldn't be in at all. Don't even bother. If it's not urgent, not important, you don't want to spend any time on it.
Set your spam filter to delete.
Delete. Just get rid of it. Just put it in there. Throw it away. Where you want to steal the time, you can't steal it from here because this dominates.
Right.
You steal the time from here. Stuff that's not important, but it appears to be urgent. It's like you got to just don't. Like that recommendation woman said. Don't take your email now. Do your email later.
Mm-hmm.
When you have time, you steal time from the not important and you put it up here. So that this ends up being like this, and this ends up being like that.
I get it. So the stuff that's not urgent yet important moves back up to the top of my inbox, and the stuff that isn't going to cause a fire drill later, but is nevertheless urgent, if it becomes a fire drill, it's not important anyway, right?
Yep.
Interesting. Like maybe I'm missing out on the Maybe I'm missing out on the fact that there's a cake buffet going on right now. It's urgent because it's happening now, right? But it's not important.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, in the meantime, I'm attending to a system failure some yellow lights on the system that are saying that there's an impending problem that may occur. It's not urgent yet, but it is important, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. And so how do you do that? Do you do that? You can't automate this because there's subjective elements, right?
Let's back up. You can start to automate this. Let's deal with email.
Okay.
So you're dealing with a very basic filter. All right, it's basically looking at something. But you can set up rules that if you get a constant, like these things in Gov delivery, and I'm sure this happened too when we sent an email out. Anytime something comes in from a certain address, you know it's junk, boom, just send it to junk.
Right.
Just get rid of it.
Right.
Certain things that you know, or what do we call this, not urgent, but they're important, you can put them in a special folder that you've already sorted through, so you know that everything in that folder is something that you have to get to.
I get it. Can I give you an example?
Sure.
Like I had an email that came on Monday that told me that I had to do something on Tuesday, that I sent a mental pin in my head to say, okay, don't forget about this, and it was not urgent, but it was important, right? And so if I had a special, instead of letting it just filter down to the bottom of my mailbox, if I had a special folder called maybe not urgent but important or something.
Quadrant 3.
Yeah,
Q3.
There you go. I could have just dropped it into there, and maybe make that Q3 folder my default opening folder, right? That's the one where I live in.
Right.
And that's a way to begin automating this process.
Right. And that's something that's a quadrant 2 activity. It's not urgent, but it's important. And if you did this, it's going to save you time later because it's going to.
Do you think that I like the way you're using the Q2, Q3 label? Do you think that's something we could almost use in our meetings?
You read my mind. We might want to call it.
What's this? Instead of a priority 1 or a priority 2, which has no meaning other than it means something to somebody, right? But if you call it a Q,
Q2.
If you call it a Q2, that means we better attend to this, or it's going to become a Q1.
Thank you.
Yes. Why don't we do that in our projects?
Absolutely.
Begin using that. I can actually change the SharePoint lists. It's give them a priority of a P1 because it's got priority P1. Call priority Q1, Q2, whatever. Yeah. No one will know, but we'll explain it to them. We'll know.
Okay.
And we'll flesh out from our teams So if we don't take care of this, how urgent is this? What's this going to look like next week if we don't do anything to it? They're going to say, oh well, crud, everything's going to be a disaster, or nothing much. It'll still be the same.
Exactly. So that's the little soapbox.
And you mentioned this was
did you ever remember that do that thing? Remember you mentioned about 2 minutes ago. It says, "Don't forget, I need to do this."
Oh, yeah. I did because I did go through and do it this morning.
Okay.
So
you did. And you did it in enough time to take care of when you...
And I did, but you know what I did? I had to rely on some old-fashioned technology. I wrote it down on a piece of paper and put it on my desk. So it worked.
Out of sight is out of mind. So
it is, but you know what?
Visible.
If that piece of paper, if I hadn't been at my desk, I wouldn't have seen it. If I'd spent my day working remote, I would have forgotten about it. If I had it in my Q2 inbox, is that right? The Q2 inbox.
Yeah.
No, not urgent. Oh no, urgent, but not Q3. Q3, that's the one. That's our target right there, right?
So this is where we.
Oh, there, Q2.
This is where we want to spend more time.
I had it backwards.
Yeah. So this is the one that's the real area that you want to spend.
Q2 has eyeballs on it, right? Can you draw a picture of a pair of eyeballs? That's where our eyeballs need to be, right? And then I don't know how to draw a thief, but we can steal from Q3 to Q2. I love that idea. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to change the template to add a priority, and the priority will be these Q1, 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah,
right?
so Q1, right at the top of the list, boom.
Yeah.
It's urgent, it's important, we gotta deal with it.
And so the Q1, this will help us as well, because we assign it to somebody, and if it's a Q1 and they're telling us, I can get that done in 2 weeks, we see a problem right there, right? You can't be tending to Q1s in 2 weeks, right?
Well, I don't know the scope, how long things take.
Oh, right.
They have to be tended to right away.
Right, and so it may be something that 2 weeks is actually a reasonable amount of time, but
Yeah.
we have to ask ourselves, is this really,
I'm gonna start it right away
Maybe-
versus I'm gonna start it in 2 weeks.
Q1's probably we
I
need
think that's
to,
what you were trying to say, right?
Right.
Oh, I'll start it in a couple weeks. No, Q1 has to go start now.
and maybe you and I, maybe as project manager, we should think if it's a Q1, maybe we want to check in on that tomorrow.